This is a long-awaited chat for a man who's basically the mayor, the CEO of Hollard Insure, and also the pride of Lens. Mr. Nash Omar. Nash, how are you doing?
I'm good. Great.
We're so blessed to have you here. You've been with this family, this institution for decades now, over 4 decades. And it's been such a different path for you to get to the point that you are. But you inspire a lot of people, and we just want to really find out about your story and how this all came to be. So let's start there with Lens. It's a really important part of who you are as a person. You remain extremely connected to your community. Tell us about you growing up and what Lenasia means to you.
Wow. So, and you know, that's 43 years back. Well, in fact, longer. I'm actually 62. But yeah, so Lens, maybe I'll just start quickly where I was born. I was born in a place called Kliptown. And the first 5 years of my life, that's where we lived. And then for some reason, I think it was 67. I think the Group Areas Act was promulgated in the 40s. We can go and double check that. But I think it was 67. And that's when they decided to enforce the law.
Right.
And that's when I moved to Lens. And that's now, work it out, 62, how many years is that? I can't even, I've lost count.
57?
55 or 50-something years.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we moved to Lens back then. And obviously, I was sharing earlier on with the team here. My current home, I lived there for about 30 years. And one of the reasons I remained in Lenasia is I still feel there's a strong sense of community.
Yeah.
I think, I don't know if you guys know, but I had a tragic moment in my life. I lost my daughter 15 years ago. And I often wonder if we were in a different environment situation, how especially my wife would have coped. Because, you know, I had worked at Itana then.
Yes.
And I had great support. And coming back to work, you needed a distraction, and I got that here.
And a family, yeah.
And family. It was a great family. And being in Lens, I knew my wife was being taken care of. So Lens will have a special place for me. I also think from a cultural point of view, there's a lot more freedom to do things you want to do. There's a lot more tolerance still, especially with diversity and the different religions.
Yeah.
And it's quite easy. You got mosques built next to churches and to temples. You could drive one road and every religion is represented. Whereas it's quite open in the other areas, but it's not very distinct. And I don't think people are receptive of the cultural principles or what people do. So Lens is very special. I have pressure all the time. When you're leaving Lens, I got no need to leave Lens.
Wow.
I make a joke. I say I still live in the township.
I mean, I can't even imagine you being in another area just because it's so woven into you as a person. And I think it's made you relate to a lot of people because of the different stories that come from that anchor that is Lens. You just spoke about sort of the Group Areas Act and those challenging times that we had in South Africa. We remain having challenging times, but obviously growing up in those types of environments definitely leaves a specific mark on a person. To be where you are today, to be a CEO of a major insurance company, it seems impossible for somebody who had the upbringing. I think about my parents. My parents were born in 1954. And I always am in awe about the fact that in one generation, I get to work in a place like this. I get to have the opportunities that I have, knowing that they were born at the height of the previous regime. Tell us about growing up at those times and the things that you had to encounter, thinking about where you are right now.
Well, I must tell you something. I mean, I could spend 2 hours talking about just that part of my life. And I don't want to use it as, I think we are very lucky and blessed to be in South Africa. But there's no harm in reflecting.
Yeah.
And
important.
it's more about people appreciating the value of today's South Africa. So we grew up in an environment where it was very challenging, and there was a system and a regime. I can quite quickly share with you guys. It was tough, and the 70s were hard because of the Soweto uprising, but the 80s were even tougher. People don't realize that, and that's when we were growing up. And I think the sacrifices that not only people like me, when my sacrifice was 24 days in prison, that's it. But, I mean, look at somebody like Madiba, 27 years, and people have lost their lives in it. And I think if people can just speak more about it from a positive vein than a negative way. I think the youth today don't understand the value that generation created for what you, first generation in a corporate environment. I look at myself when I matriculated, in my back of my mind, I wanted to be a CA. But from a cultural point of view, we grew up, retail is what it is because your father and your forefathers
It's
all
predetermined.
It's predetermined.
There's 3 professions that you could really, for women it was teaching or a nurse or working in somebody else's home.
And that's if you were lucky.
And that's if you were lucky.
Yeah. So I mean, some of those moments, I believe, has actually made me the person I am. I would actually go through that again. I'd love to. Like, if there's anything like reincarnation, I'd love to go through that time again.
Wow.
Because it formed a certain character of appreciation and understanding today, when I am very blessed and I've done extremely well, and I'm very lucky to be where I am today. And I think when I think about those times, it makes me feel for people who are still in that situation. You appreciate your situation a lot more.
Absolutely.
Yeah. When you've always had it, there's no appreciation. I'm not saying everybody who has always had it, there's no appreciation. But I think when somebody who's had nothing, when you have to start work at the age of 10 to try and earn some pocket money, and that's when I started working, by the way.
What were you doing at age 10?
So age 10, those days, today you walk into a shop, right, and you can go and scan and pay for a bag and get your groceries. And
yeah, you pay with your watch.
Back then you had to take your own bags. And so it was at the railway station. I would stand out there, especially over December. People would come and do their shopping, and I would be selling these carrier bags. And people would buy it, and all day in the flipping sun. But you earned money. You had to earn some money. And then eventually, I think I was 13, 14, and that same man said, okay, now you need to come and work in the shop.
Okay.
And that's when I got attached to retail, not only from a cultural point of view, but I was exposed to it at a very young age. And I thought, okay, one day I will have my own shop. But I guess destiny had something else planned.
Apparently, you work in a much bigger shop. You sell insurance now.
Yep.
And so a little bit of experience that you had from a young age being in sales and doing what you do. Can you tell us about how the insurance journey started? And, it's been quite a trajectory and a consistent trajectory from the time that you started until now. You didn't really deviate in between.
So
how did you stumble into insurance?
So just one quick story if I can.
Sure.
So I don't even know Abdul Ibrahim.
Yes.
Yeah, now Abs and I lived next to each other when we were 5 years old. Okay. We've now worked together for the group in many ways. Next year for 90 years combined. So I knew him from the age of 5. We worked together for 43 years. Next year we both retire, and we would have given this organization in many ways 90 years of service.
My goodness.
So Abs and I lived, and then they moved on a bit, but we were still in touch, soccer and all that. And then the year I matriculated, oh God, I think I probably got a worse matric than Julius, but if I could say that. But anyway, I couldn't really go to university, and there's many reasons for that. I think the certificate, cash, all that. But also I was really enjoying retail. Then I met him at the filling station. He said to me, Nash, what's happening? I said, no, you wrote matric. I said, yeah, because he was 2 years ahead of me. How did it go? I told him. He said, you're working? I said, yeah, but I said, yeah. He said, no, you need to get out of retail. You need to get to corporate. I said, Abs, corporate? I've been for interviews. People look at my matric, not interested. I said, no, I'll come back to you. And back then, if you knew somebody and you were a good worker, everybody thought, well, if he's a good worker, his friends must be good workers and his family must. And that's the way people employed. So he organized my first interview, and God bless his soul, it was a man called Gordon McGregor. And I honestly believe, Mamoeti, that there was definitely a divine intervention, because when I met this man, he had 3 packets of 30 Stuyvesant on his desk, and he continuously smoked. Okay, and back then, if I have to admit, although I was like 18, I also smoked. I started smoking. I don't smoke anymore, and I felt like, is this man going to offer me a cigarette? But obviously, it wasn't the thing to do because there was an age gap. But anyway, he spent 1.5 hours with me, telling me about his life. He was a fighter what do you call it? He was in the Air Force, in the British Air Force. He was in the Second World War.
My goodness.
And I thought, God, this man. But you know what he did? Somehow, he gave me the comfort that when he eventually realized, he said to me, young man, in this English sort of accent, time is gone. Let me see what we've got here. And I said, Mr. McGregor, please, I've listened to you for 1.5 hours. Can you listen to me for 15 minutes? Okay, that's fair enough. So I put my hand on this brown envelope that had my matric certificate. And I told him my story. And all I said to him, please don't judge me by what's in that. He said, okay, let me have a look. And then he said, I'll come back to you. And I thought, okay, well, that's what everybody's done. I have many interviews. All of them going to come back. Nobody came back to me. Surprisingly, the next day, in fact, my dad phoned that night. I went to Pretoria. I said, Joe, you need to see this man again tomorrow. And I had to go and organize new clothes. But I was already working in retail. A friend of mine was a manager. Quickly phoned, got the clothes, went for an interview. And he said to me, there's a job for you, but in the filing room. So I said, okay, I'll take it. He says, you're not going to let me down. I said, no. I said, you'll fire me after 2 days. Got in the filing room. My boss was a guy called Prince Mobita. And Prince, there was a lady called Mrs. Kovacs. She asked for a file. And those days, we were on microfilm. So the little negatives. And the file she was looking for, you'd make copies and they're going to work on it, bring it back to you. But the one she wanted was gone for updating. So I wrote a little note. I said, Mrs. Kovacs, the file's gone for updating. When it comes back, I will let you know. And I just put my name there. I just sort of been there like 3 months. And she came back. My boss was a guy called Prince Mobita. I said, Prince, who wrote me this note? Mrs. Kovacs, it's that youngster there. Called me. And said, is this your handwriting? I said, yes, madam. Said, I don't believe it. Let me see. So I had to, like we did just now, I had to show her. I wrote this note. She walked into the filing room, took me by my arm, went to Mr. McGregor and said, this man is no longer going to be in the filing room. He's going to, with his handwriting, he has to come and work for me. And then I started doing Cesria, because those days Cesria coupons were handwritten.
My goodness.
That's how I got out of the filing room. And then from there onwards, Mamoeti, I worked in an environment where I accepted the status quo. I just realized that I could accept things the way they are or do my best. And hopefully somebody's going to notice that, shit, this man needs to be given opportunities. I worked hard. I worked harder than my colleagues 4 or 5 times, no problem. But because I just wanted to better my life.
Yes.
I just wanted to, I had an option to sit and accept and say, well, I'm come from a generation where
These are my circumstances.
are what you are, and so I worked hard, and I remember it was 1984 or something like that. I was part of like a group of learners or whatever it was. So we spent time in claims, underwriting, went from one area to the other, and by the time it was 1986, I remember going to my boss and I said to him, I see this oak down there where I was jamming with. I see he joined us and he's now already. I thought he was going to just come here to learn because he knows nothing, but I believe he's now a BC and he's got a car. He took me downstairs. And I've been here. He said, no, you
People were surpassing you.
Yeah, I said, I need a bit of more time, He says, no, well, I'm sorry, you need more time. I said, okay, well, I accepted it. And then I think there were some people, like a Peter Olliott, who is now CEO of Willis. I knew him back then. And I think they all intervened and said, no, you need to give this guy a chance. I think he can do it. And the minute you became a BC, you got a company car. I had to use my own car for 6 months in case I never made it. So I said, fine. I used my own car for 6 months, and then I must give it to him. Mr. Swanepoel came to me, said, go and go and get your new company car. I went, and then, and then my life, every 2-3 years, there was a change, and then I even remember, well before 94, at that time, it was a gentleman called Robbie Foe, and God bless his soul. All these people that I know seem to have moved on. And he said to me, he called me and he says, I'm going to promote you. You're going to look after the sales team. And I said, Rob, me? Look at here. He said, I'm telling you, you will look after the sales team. You can do it. Yeah, and then from sales, I became branch manager, regional manager. And today, I'm the CEO of Hollard Insure.
But you had people backing you? even when it felt like the world at that time was not as accepting because of those circumstances. You said a little bit earlier that if you could go back, you would. What would you tell that young man? Because you had a lot of self-actualization. You put your head down and you grafted. You weren't a victim to your circumstances, even though the circumstances were less than ideal. What would you say to the younger Nash at the beginning of that journey?
So for me, I think you can never change your situation. I think the universe knows why you are where you are, whatever. But what I do believe is with the right attitude, the right mindset, you can achieve whatever you want. And it doesn't matter what the circumstances are. I think too many people say, well, that's me. And they give up before even trying.
My story's been written for me.
Yeah, and I think especially, I think there's a difference between spirituality and religion. I think a lot of people who are very religious, or sometimes spiritual, say, well, that's my destiny and I can't change it. I don't believe in that.
Agreed.
I don't believe in that. So you can. I think you can change your journey. You can change your path. It's all about you.
Yeah.
So
you
my
took your nice handwriting and you wrote your own
nice
story.
handwriting and my nice attitude, if I may say so.
Yes.
Yeah, a very positive attitude, and yeah, absolutely.
Who are the people that you have looked to as mentors? Because in coming up as a young person, trying to reach at a different level, you kind of have to look to other people to say, how have they done it? Where can I get my support? You probably play a mentorship role to a lot of people, including, your son, who's also in insurance. Can you tell us about some of those people that have impacted your life?
I always pray, and I somehow sent a message to the universe, to wherever McGregor is. Because I somehow think, if he never gave me that opportunity, I often wonder where I would be. Okay. So he wasn't a mentor, but just showing gratitude towards him is important. I think my work life, my journey, my career really kicked off when I met a gentleman called Robbie Foe. Okay. Obviously, he saw something in me that said, I need to back this guy. And so he's definitely right up there, especially in my early years of development, especially from a management point of view. Giving me an opportunity was a guy called Robbie Foe, and he was a very bright, smart, intelligent man.
Yeah.
So he played a significant role in my development. And after that, I've got quite a few, but I'm going to sort of prioritize. I would not like to believe, I believe that the second phase of my, like a development and a kick on was definitely Paolo Cavalieri. I mean, Rob was there, but, he was more in the background. But Paolo definitely, Paolo also, and I think he's a good judge of character, and he sees talent immediately and then he backs it, And with me, when we started Etana in 2008, Paolo and Rob decided to, and Abdul and I, we're going to come here. And there was somebody called Rory Gainsford. He moved on, and Paolo said, Nash, you're going to be the MD of Etana. I said, yes, Paolo. I think I was a regional manager at Hollard. He said, no, I know you can do it. I'm here. We're going to support you. I'm right here for it. And Paolo's mentorship was of a very different kind. Robbie was excellent, but he had his own way. Paolo was a lot more dynamic. He was Paolo had a presence. He walked in a room and you could sense it. And I think him and I hit it off because he's also deeply spiritual. And I always believe about chemistry.
Yeah.
There's definitely, life is about that. And my entire life, I followed my gut, my intuition. And the day I met Paolo, before they acquired Fed and we came to Hollard, there was a spark. And that, to me, and he played a big role in my development as the MD of Etana. And what happened then was that when we eventually moved to Hollard again, and the one good thing about Paolo, okay, he's such a positive guy. He backs you. I know you can do it.
Still does the same for us today.
He still does it. And you guys are very lucky to have somebody like, and Rob as well, Rob in his own way. But I would say Paolo played a very significant part in, yeah. So I would say Robbie Fowle, Gordon McGregor, and Paulo Kevin. There's one or two others, but the real impactful people in my life helping me with my career was Robin.
Yeah.
Paulo and Robbie, yeah.
It's almost like you meet some of these soulmates along the way, because Abs, it's been your whole life knowing this man. And the two of you are reaching retirement, all a different phase of this story of yours. How are you approaching that? Are you thinking deeply about what this means? Are you kind of taking it as it comes? Is it somewhere in the background? What are your thoughts on this next chapter?
So I'm actually, people use the word retirement. I'm just seeing it as the next part of my journey. Mm-hmm. It's like being on a highway. There's 2 lanes, you move to the next lane now. I'm again just very blessed that I'm in a position where I don't have to rush into what I'm going to be doing, as well as iTOO. We both retire next year. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we've got plans. Maybe it's time for us to. I make a joke. Tell the guys last night I was at a Marsh event. I said, Nash, you're going to start a UMA and all that. I said, yeah. So I said, one thing about the Hollard Insure family, people just don't leave. When you retire, when your time's up, they try and find something else in the organization. So if you look at Paulo, Rob, Itana, iTOO, so I'm going to be starting I3.
Cheers to that.
Just that.
Yeah, you have got so much energy still. The relationships that you have are so strong. The story will be ever evolving, and we're looking forward to seeing what's next. But I wanted to do some quick fire questions with you. Good. Whatever's the first thing that comes to mind, let me know.
Okay.
Your family says that you're an expert at?
I'm an expert at people.
I would agree with what they say about that.
Okay.
Okay, so we're in the game of specialty. Yeah. What is your specialty in the kitchen?
Nothing. No specialty in the kitchen.
Not even noodles.
No. Okay, no, I can fry an egg. Yeah, just about.
Good to know.
Yeah.
Nash, what's the biggest risk you've ever taken?
The biggest risk I've taken in my life. I'm a fairly conservative person, so.
Interesting. And you're in insurance.
Honestly, yeah, but the thing is, and that's the balance you need in insurance, right? I don't want to deflect from your question. It's a balance of risk and conservatism. Otherwise, if it's just about risk, you could lose your pants. Gee whiz.
This haircut.
No. No, that had no risk. That had no risk.
Maybe it's still to come.
Maybe
with
still to come.
With this I3.
Maybe it could be the I3 thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, last one. What is the first thing you think about when you wake up in the morning?
Honest to God. So, and it's something that I've trained myself to do. I mean, and I do. And I'm not religious. I think I'm more spiritual than religious. I do get up every morning just being very grateful for being alive and for where I am and who I am.
Yes.
Now and the other thing is, the one thing I've learned a long time ago, somebody said to me, don't compare your shoes to somebody who's got better shoes. Compare it to someone who's got no feet.
Yes.
And all of a sudden, no matter what your situation is, you will be grateful for whatever situation you are. So that's what goes to my mind. I don't think about work. I think about me and my gratitude and my maker.
Something I'll take with me as well.
Yeah.
But you are such an important person in our world. You're a pillar, and we're excited to see what's going to happen next, but knowing that you're going to still be very close to us. So thank you so much for the time, and onwards and upwards for what's next.
Pleasure. Thank you for allowing me to chat to you.
Anytime.
Anytime.